Football is a game that can be played on video, otherwise known as a video game. These video games make a lot of money, and that money has to go somewhere. Somebody has to get paid. In the case of NCAA College Football 26, the schools that are in the game will be getting paid, and you, yes, you, can have a direct impact on how much money Iowa State makes from NCAA College Football 26, and we're going to talk about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Today, we are breaking down the monetary impact of NCAA College Football 26 and how it affects Iowa State and how you can have an impact on how much money Iowa State makes. That's kind of neat. Then we're going to break down a new football player that was recruited in the 2026 class, an offensive lineman in the second segment. Can't wait to break into that. And honestly, we're going to talk about recruiting as a whole because Iowa State is killing it right now. And then finally, we're going to do a little bit of a spotlight on Jamar Baitman in the third segment. So don't go anywhere if you want to get to know next year's men's basketball team. Can't wait to dive into all that and more. But first, today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, I want to get this out of the way. This is not an endorsement to buy NCAA College Football 26, okay? I probably will myself. I spent way too many hours playing the game last year, and I do know that a lot of people say, you know, the game's the same every year. It's the same with Madden, right? A lot of people bought 25 because it'd been 10 years since the last NCAA college football game came out, right? It was something new. There was a lot of big changes since the last time. Obviously, graphics have come, light years in the last 10 years or whatever. I think it was like 11 years NCAA 14 to college football 25. So obviously a lot of differences. But this could have a major impact, this college football 26. For more reasons than one. And I am not here to talk about what is in the game. I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I want to have my socks blown off the way I did last year. The first time I fire it up on my Xbox, I had goosebumps. The drum line, I know people don't love it. I can't get enough of it. I don't want to get too far into talking about the game here. I want to talk about the impacts of the game. Something of pretty major note here is that the NCAA, I guess it's EA Sports College Football 26, when it comes out in July, schools will be compensated in a new way. Last year it was based on EA, AP polls, grouped into like these quarters, I believe is what it was, 4 tiers based on the previous 10 years of final AP poll results, and that determined revenue distribution. It's not the same this year, and I think Iowa State can stand to benefit from it. And we'll talk a little bit about how it could go either way and how Matt Campbell, Rocco Beck, everyone on the football team needs your help. Okay. So here's a sample of what could happen. Before I lay out the numbers, the concept, what I'm about to say is not a sample. This is what's going to happen. I'll get into the sample here in a second with some kind of arbitrary numbers. What's going to happen is that schools will be paid kind of based on how much they're played in the game. That sounds pretty cool, right? It's got upside, it's got downside. Feels like a little bit more risky in comparison to some other models that would be proposed. In this sample scenario, it says the total royalties in a university pool would be $5 million with 700 million games played. If users played 7 million games as School A, the school's allocation would be 1%. Therefore, School A would receive $50,000. Now, is $50,000 a lot to the Iowa State Athletic Department? Not really. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, going to be shelling out probably $20.5 million with the cap is where it is right now. So 50,000 out of 20 million, it's not a ton, to be completely honest. It really isn't. It's just kind of a drop in the bucket. But based on what we've heard from Jamie Pollard, I mean, I think it would take 50,000 if he could have it, right? I know I would take 50,000 if it were being offered to me and I knew it was legal and I knew everything about it. Obviously, I don't want to get in over my head here, but that's a lot of money. Now, like I said, out of the 20.5 million or out of the 100 million that's generated over the course of the year, not that much. But that's only in that scenario, right? What if all of those games out of that 7 million games or 700 million games, what if those were all Iowa State games? I mean, that's 100x, right? So you're looking at $5 million then. That's a lot more. That's 100 times more. If my math is correct, I believe that's $5 million. Should add two zeros. Maybe that's 500,000. Either way, not exactly sure. 50,000, 500,000 should be $5 million. All of this to say, one, there are new ways that schools are getting paid, right? So the idea that we were kind of pigeonholed into this situation where you just have to generate all this money, I don't think that's necessarily true. Obviously, with EA Sports doing this thing where they're going to pay schools based on how much the schools is played in the game, but then you're also going to see all sorts of creative ways for schools and players to get paid over the next, you know, 10 years. You know, is kind of what the House versus NCAA settlement timeline was. But over the next 3 years, 4 years, we're going to start seeing some wild kind of situations. And I know tomorrow we're going to be talking about something that the University of Iowa, is doing. And should Iowa State potentially look into doing something similar? I don't ever like doing something that Iowa is doing because normally it's losing, if we're being completely honest. But based on what I'm seeing, could be something to at least look into. So we'll do that probably tomorrow. Nonetheless, there are more ways than one to get paid. So I think that that's a positive sign for Iowa State and for all Iowa State fans out there, that we don't have to necessarily rely on only the money generated from popcorn at football games, or only the money generated from clone cones at home men's basketball games. Like we don't have to really only narrow in on one thing here. That's obviously the extreme of it, but if you look at it as, well, we don't only have to narrow in on all the money generated from athletics. Well, we've also got money coming in from this EA Sports, college football 26. We've also got, I've heard that there is a college basketball game potentially in the works. I don't know if I'm just getting fooled on the internet, very likely. But if that were to go down, I wonder if it would take some of these concepts and start paying universities in that regard. And I think Iowa State, if that were the case, would be getting paid a lot of money. Like, actually, I think Iowa State's probably one of the better basketball schools in the nation, right up there. Kind of like, I mean, I can't adequately guess where they would be at in a football stratosphere. So you let me know down below in the comment section or at Nick_Marv on Twitter. Just tweet at me. This is where I think Iowa State basketball is if you were to compare them to the football landscape, right? Like, explain this to me in NCAA college football terms, kind of deal. All of that, where I'm going with this is there are more than one ways to get paid. It's like diversifying your portfolio, having multiple streams of income. Very good. But also, this is kind of a risky play. Who plays as Iowa State in NCAA college football 26? That's the question. Is it enough people to make a dent? That's the question. How many games, even if it's the same people? So what you can do, or what I might do, is go play 100 games as Iowa State in one day. Just literally to help make Iowa State money. It's completely free once you have the game. Like I said, I'm not pitching. I'm not like advertising for any the game here or at all. I'm just literally conceptualizing, like, it's just playing the game that I want to play, but I'm going to play it as Iowa State. You get to know the players. Like, it's a win-win for everybody. The downside is, though, I don't know how this goes across the nation. How many people are playing as Iowa State? We got to get the internet behind. Let's all play as Iowa State here. I know we've I believe Delaware is a team that's in the game this year. And there's already conversations of let's have Delaware play as many games as Delaware as we can, make Delaware some money. Let's do it for Iowa State. Let's all have Iowa State EA College Football 26 day, where everybody plays 500 games as Iowa State on, like, the Saturday before classes. I know nobody's doing anything the Saturday before classes in Ames. I know that. So maybe we work out something like that, make it this whole event. I think that'd be really cool. A great opportunity for Iowa State to make some more money, at the very least, even if it is pennies on the dollar. in comparison to what they need to be making. At least it's more than zero. Now, more than zero, Iowa State recruiting, absolutely killing the game right now. Really kind of high up in the conversation. We're going to talk about that coming up right after this. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's matchups are already delivering. It's the kind of atmosphere that really is second to none, especially with Tyrese Halliburton right now. If you want in, GameTime makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, GameTime is a total game changer. I was just on the app looking at some Pacers tickets because who doesn't want to go see Tyrese Halliburton? And the zone deals were offering 60% off in some great sections. I absolutely love the concept of being able to see my seat before I buy. No surprises. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So we've been talking a little bit about kind of video games, right? It's where we've been here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So far today on this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. Okay, now let's talk about another video game type player, but it's a real player. Okay, it's a real dude. Pete Aglidis is committed to Iowa State, 3-star offensive lineman from Columbus, Ohio. A huge commitment here, 13th from the 2026 recruiting class. Obviously, an offensive lineman, a position that I think Iowa State stands to benefit a lot from. He's 6'7", 285 pounds. What is in the water over there at Bishop Watterson High School? First team All-State honors a season ago. Had a lot of offers during his recruitment. It says here that Aglidis chose the Cyclones, Iowa State, over offers from Pittsburgh, Louisville, Kentucky, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Missouri, Marshall, James Madison, Old Dominion, Toledo, Miami, Ohio, Kent State, Akron. You get it. There's a ton of offers on the board here. Iowa State won them. Obviously, Pittsburgh in the ACC, Louisville in the ACC, a couple big other name schools in there as well. James Madison was huge just a couple of years ago. And so this is going to be a huge addition for the Cyclones, obviously, at the offensive line position. Like I mentioned, he is not the only offensive lineman for Iowa State that will be joining in 2026, is kind of how I'm trying to say that there. There are two others, Mason Banhauer and Ethan Beckman. They are the other two. Third offensive lineman is now obviously Pete Aglidis. And I wanted to use that to transition into Iowa State's recruiting class as a whole. As it stands right now, we have Jet Tamala, Mason Banhauer, as I said, Daniel Howard, Amarian Jackson, Caprice Keith, Milan Paris, Barry Fries, Jeffrey Roberts, Keon Kaiser, Tyrell Chapman, Caleb Francois, this is how I'm going to say it, Owen Winder, Ethan Beckman, and Pete Aglidis. Okay. Looking at the positions here, we're going quarterback, offensive line, D-line, wide receiver. Caprice Keith is just an athlete overall dude. Okay. We got a wide receiver, linebacker, wide receiver, linebacker, wide receiver, linebacker, wide receiver, linebacker. Kind of like that little tempo there. Safety, running back, another lineman. Obviously, then Beckman and Glidis in there. I'm assuming Beckman is an interior offensive lineman here, is what that IOL is. So pretty solid class here is probably what you're thinking, right? You've probably heard all those names. You hear all these numbers. You're like, oh, Iowa State kind of killing it in the recruiting game. You'd be right. Iowa State right now, with 14 commits via 24/7 Sports, is 26th in the nation. 26th. Okay. What does that mean? One spot out of the top 25. A number we're all very familiar with. Okay, so, taking a look at some of these schools ahead of Iowa State, obviously, you're going to have your schools at the top: USC, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson, Penn State make out the top 5 there with some pretty substantial numbers. I mean, I'm not going to lie. But when you look at everything between, really all the way up to one, but as I said, down to six, down to where we're at 26, Iowa State kind of killing it right now. The only Big 12 school ahead, the only two Big 12 schools, excuse me, ahead of Iowa State are Kansas and Arizona State. The only two, based on my count here. Okay. I might have slipped up. I'm 99.99999% sure I didn't. It's Iowa State at 26, then Arizona State at 17, and Kansas at 15. Okay, I'm double checking because I, for some reason, thought I missed one. No, I believe those are the only two schools in the Big 12 ahead of Iowa State. Now, Iowa State, the top 26. How many schools are in college football? A lot of teams. So for Iowa State to be where we're at, that's a great sign. It's talking so highly about obviously the recruiting power that Iowa State has, for one, namely, obviously, the Nebraska pipeline. And I do think that that number largely hinges on Jet Tamala. And we haven't heard yet if he's going to decide or what he's going to decide, excuse me, between Alabama and Iowa State. I've talked about why I think he's going to pick Iowa State. And I think that's a promising kind of outlook. The fact that he hasn't chosen Alabama after his official, or I think it was an unofficial visit. But it's kind of a big piece of that whole puzzle, obviously being a 4-star. But and the Nebraska thing, where I was going with that is that we're starting to see this new age of Iowa State football, and it's in the eyes of everyone. Besides, kind of like the guys like me and you watching this, these diehard Iowa State fans. And yes, there are some diehards that realize the situation and say, well, Iowa State's, we're kind of about here. And then there's people like me that are like, Iowa State's greatest of all time, and I don't care what you have to say. Now, I try to keep it as impartial as I can for this show, but if you ever talk to me in the real world, I will always say Iowa State is the greatest college and sports team ever, bar none, second to literally nothing, not even air. Is air a team? Is that like an avatar team, maybe? Nonetheless, what I'm trying to say here is we're starting to see it in the eyes of kind of the public, and we're seeing it reflected in the recruiting. Now, Matt Campbell's been around the program a long time. I think that the way he conducts his business, the way that the culture is built, and the fact that he's been recruited by multiple NFL teams to come be a head coach for them and has chosen to stay at Iowa State is starting to speak volumes as far as these recruits go. They can get into a program and know, all right, I'm going to have the same head coach more than likely for the entire time I'm at this university. I think that's a big deal, especially nowadays. Obviously, with the movement, that's a player kind of chosen path, but I don't think players are excited to get into a program where they don't know if they're going to have the same head coach in 2 years or 1 year or 3 years or whatever the case is, however long they play for. They want to have the same coach, I guess, provided they're a good coach. But obviously, Matt Campbell's the best coach in the entire nation. So what are we talking about here? Very excited for Pete Glidis to join obviously on that recruiting list there. I think it's a huge pickup at the offensive line. 6'7", 270 is huge. I mean, that is just enormous. I can't even. Can you imagine being 6'7"? Can you? That's so tall. I can't even, like, can you see over Walmart shelves at 6'7"? I can't even comprehend how tall 6'7" is. To be out there on the line for Iowa State, if not making an immediate impact, I think he will over the long term because I believe in Iowa State's developmental program. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge addition, or it is a huge, huge addition for the Cyclones. Speaking of developmental programs, football isn't the only one. Basketball is as well. Let's talk a little bit of men's basketball coming up right after this. Jamar Baitman, a guy that is absolutely going to turn the tides for Iowa State men's basketball. You're Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we've got some kind of clips here, some really interesting tidbits of words from a Jamar Baitman interview. And I'm kind of just going to run through this whole thing here. If you want to read along, I'm reading this Des Moines Register article talking about Jamar Baitman, a 6'3", 170-pound guard from Milwaukee, coming to Ames. Okay, we've talked about him before. I've talked about how excited I am for this freshman class to come to Iowa State. I think we can all kind of agree that the freshman class last year wasn't what we thought it was going to be. That's not necessarily anything against them. It's just I think expectations were higher than what the actual payout was, and obviously with the transfer portal being what it was, a lot of movement. The team very good last year as well, right? Like so that was another portion of it. Obviously had Jones at the 6th man. Yeah, Jefferson a transfer in, Keyshawn Gilbert, obviously a transfer at one point, but obviously like kind of last year of eligibility there. You got Taman. Like we had older dudes in there playing their role. I think Watson was a guy that a lot of people wanted to say or to see play more, just didn't really get the opportunity. Obviously, Jackson moving on to Pitt. Well, it is what it is. I think that what I'm trying to say here is I think that the freshman class last year could have been maybe a little bit better to try to give as much credit as I can here. I think that this year we're looking at a very, very, very good incoming freshman class. And I'm not going to talk about the entire freshman class. That can be saved for another day. But I think Jamar Baitman is one that is going to be huge on top of the transfers, the existing guys. This team next year could be so unbelievably good. It really could. Now, obviously, the first thing that we talk about with these kinds of guys is the Wisconsin pipeline. It is. Obviously, we've talked about it in the past. Halliburton and everything he's doing, it's going to be a part of it. Here it says, Bateman said, you always try to represent where you're from, represent your family, your state, and your city. It means a lot to be one of the next ones out of Wisconsin, and it's great to have that connection from, and then in parentheses, Milwaukee native TJ Otzelberger, who's from Wisconsin. My plan is to eventually make it to the NBA. I think that's a lot of guys' plan. So I definitely believe I can be that next guy to come in, produce, and hopefully be one of those guys like the Halliburtons or one of the Cyclones that make it to the league. High expectations, high hopes. I think that that's a super good kind of sign for where Bateman's at. This next quote, a little bit more about his game. He said, quote, I'm more than just a shooter. I do it all. Just compete, do whatever it takes to win. I like to emphasize the little things. For those of you listening, pause, look at the camera for dramatic effect. I'll come back to that. Obviously, I know I can shoot and score the ball at a very high level. That's going to come with the game because that's who I am, but just really emphasizing the little things. I think that's what made me choose Iowa State because that's what they're about. Do I have an extra mic to drop? Do I have a book to slam? Do I have a punching bag to punch? I'm getting fired up. I mean, this is exactly what we heard literally in thousands of press conferences from Otzelberger last year. Probably not literally thousands. Okay, I should probably backpedal that half a step, but it's pretty close. I mean, it was pretty close. It was, I bet, over 80% of them. Otzelberger talking about the daily habits, right? And obviously talking about the effort and what they're kind of expected to do out there. But really what he kept talking about was it's the daily habits. How hard do you attack at practice every day? How are you approaching your off the court, like your treatment, right? Like you're not necessarily rehab, but I'm blanking on the word. Gosh, literally all I can think of is rehab, but I just where you're recovery. How seriously you're taking recovery, your sleep, your study habits, right? Like your food, all of these things play a factor, right? You don't just show up, play basketball for an hour once a day, and then go just not exist or 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is. You know, the point is, it's not all you do as a human, not even just as a person. There are like levels to it. Not as a person that's in college. Like there are tons of other things you got to do. How do you manage your stress as a college student and athlete? But also as a human, you need to do other things. You need to eat, for one, sleep. Like those are basic human needs. How do you go about doing those things? Those are going to impact your play on the basketball court. Something that Otzelberger talked about time and time again. So for Bateman to talk about those being, something he focuses on the little things. And I don't know. I guess I can't say in that quote. He doesn't say, I make it a really good point to get to bed at 10 o'clock every night and up at 6, consistent sleep schedule, 8 hours a night. I always wake up, have the same breakfast, high protein, like whatever. He didn't say that. So I guess I can't for sure say that he's talking about that versus, the little things on the court. I guess I can't for sure narrow that down, but I'm taking it as a blanket statement. I'm taking that as a positive where he's talking about everything, right? It's you hear every coach talk about it. How you do the little things is how the big things are going to get done, right? Like The sum of all these little actions leads to a very large outcome. Do the little things right, and all the big things will follow. How many times have we heard something along those lines? Literally almost every day. Almost every day. And if we haven't, maybe we need to set up a reminder, because it is true, but it's just very, very common. I think that um, for Bateman to make a point to say that, I think that's really cool. I think it helps show where he's going to fit in the Iowa State culture. I think that's huge. I really do. Now, another quote from him. He said, quote, "They can expect me to knock down a lot of shots and get buckets, but also lock up the other team's best player and cause trouble on the defensive end as well. I wish I was on a basketball court so I could slap the wood right now. All right, get down at the defensive stance, probably a little too wide because I'm not a basketball player, but get down, slap that wood." Okay, that's obviously another emphasis that TJ Otzelberger has talked about. The defensive intensity is something that Iowa State prides itself on. We've done that for years. That's great news. We're not getting a guy who's coming out just trying to score 80 points a night, just kind of Chino Hills, cherry picking, scoring a bucket, half jogging, half court. Let's play 4-on-5. I'll get the free bucket. Then we'll just do this all night. They can't stop me. We'll probably stop them at least once. We'll win the game. We're not looking at a guy like that. We're looking at a guy who's going to sprint back on defense, really get his hands dirty, move his feet, shuffle his feet left to right, keep them in front, jump, close out, all those kinds of things. I guess jump is a very odd word to use there. Close out, picking for the ball and hustling in transition for offensive opportunities as well. I think that's obviously another thing that lines up with Iowa State's kind of mentality. Now, talking a little bit about kind of the recruiting side of this, he said, quote, "Iowa State showed up at my school countless amounts of times, and then they had me on many visits. They were at most of my games in the summer, every live period. They made me a priority, so that just stuck out to me. It's a family-like environment, and that's something you want. On the sports side, I feel like I fit their playing style as far as being competitors after getting after it on defense. The thing I love about Otzelberger is he doesn't keep a leash on you. As long as you play defense, you get to rock out." Awesome. First off, great job, Iowa State, with their recruiting. I think nobody's really shocked by that. It's really cool to hear how seriously we're taking it, because Iowa State is one of the premier programs in the country. You could easily see them kind of taking a back seat, being like, all right, yeah, if you want to come to Iowa State, we'll offer you whatever, but you got to kind of want to come. We're already really good. Nope, that's not how Iowa State's going about it. Obviously doing their due diligence, taking their time, doing everything the right way. I think that's a great thing. And then kind of rounding out that quote there, where Bateman was talking about the play style and the Otzelberger not keeping a leash on him as long as they play defense. He understands the situation. He understands what he's getting himself into here. Great sign. I think this Bateman guy going to be a huge addition for the Cyclones. I really do. Maybe I'm just a little bit wearing the red glasses here or whatever, but I'm seeing Iowa State going undefeated in the conference, undefeated in the non-conference, undefeated in the NCAA tournament and the Big 12 tournament as well. Literally a lossless year. That's what I'm seeing right now, based on the roster that's returning, the transfers we got in, and these incoming freshmen. I think we're literally it's time. We're due. It's going to happen. Let me know if you agree or disagree down below in the comments or at Nick_Marv on Twitter. Can't wait to see what you guys think. I do have a question I'll be answering tomorrow. If you ever want a question answered on the show, shoot it to me on Twitter at Nick_Marv. Thank you guys for listening till this point. Be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. It's free. We're proving it's a Cyclone State. Until next time, Cyclone fans.